A confession, written on October 31st, 1887. I'm a physician, and I've been murdering the dying for 23 years. Not murder in the legal sense, though I suppose a court would disagree, but rather a gift, a mercy, an act of profound scientific generosity that happens to coincide with the inevitable cessation of life. My name is Dr. Elias Brennan. I am 61 years old. I have practiced medicine in this city since 1852, and I have earned a reputation as a skilled surgeon, a compassionate healer, and a pillar of the medical community. What no one knows, what no one has ever suspected, is that every Halloween for the past 23 years, I have selected a patient from among the dying and performed an unauthorized dissection while they were still alive, or so I believed. Tonight, as I sit in my surgery preparing for this year's Halloween gift, I have come to understand a terrible truth. They were all awake, every single one. And the man sitting across from me now, the man I drugged an hour ago, is about to become the 24th. Let me explain how this began. Welcome to Fright Club. Subscribe for more darkness. Now, 1864, October 31st, 1864. I've been practicing medicine for 12 years, and I'd become obsessed with the inadequacy of medical education. I had learned anatomy from textbooks and from the dissection of long-dead bodies, criminals executed and given to medical schools, or the unclaimed poor, their flesh already beginning the process of decay by the time our scalpels touched them. We learned structure, yes. We learned the placement of organs, the branching of vessels, the architecture of bone and muscle. But we did not learn the living body. We did not see how tissue responded when blood still flowed through it, how organs functioned in their actual state rather than their preserved state, how the whole system worked in concert. The dead could teach us only so much. To truly understand, we needed to study the dying. I had a patient that October, Mrs. Eleanor Marsh, aged 47, dying of consumption. She had perhaps a week to live, maybe 2. Her lungs were failing, her body wasting, and there was nothing I or any physician could do to prevent the inevitable. She had no family, no one to mourn her, no one who would ask difficult questions. On Halloween night, after my evening rounds, I returned to her room. I brought with me a substantial dose of laudanum, enough, I believed, to render her completely unconscious while still maintaining basic life functions. I administered the drug and waited for it to take effect. Her breathing slowed, her eyes closed, her body went limp. I checked her pulse, faint but steady. Perfect. I moved her to my private surgery, a room in the basement of my practice where I conducted research and kept my anatomical specimens. I laid her on the examination table and prepared my instruments. What I intended was educational, scientific. I would make careful incisions, observe the living organs, document the progression of her disease, and contribute to medical knowledge in a way that no textbook could. And when the examination caused her death, as it inevitably would, she would die painlessly, unconscious, unaware. She would die a week earlier than she would have naturally. But what was a week when that week would be spent in suffering? I was giving her a gift, a painless death and a purpose beyond her own meager existence. I made the first incision, a long vertical cut down the sternum, the standard approach for thoracic examination. The flesh parted smoothly. Blood welled but did not spurt. The laudanum had lowered her blood pressure significantly. I could see the ribs beneath, the intercostal muscles, the mechanics of breathing made visible. It was extraordinary. Everything the textbooks had described, but alive, functioning, real. I cut through the ribs with bone shears and opened the chest cavity. The lungs were there before me, rising and falling with each shallow breath. I could see the disease, the lesions, the accumulated fluid, the tissue damage. I made notes, documenting everything with scientific precision. I was so absorbed in my observations that I almost didn't notice when her eyes opened. I looked up from my notes and met her gaze. She was awake, completely awake, staring at me with eyes that held full consciousness, full awareness of what was being done to her. But she could not move, could not speak. The laudanum had paralyzed her body while leaving her mind horrifyingly alert. I stepped back, my instruments clattering to the floor. "You're awake," I whispered. You can't be. The dose should have." Her eyes moved. That was all she could do. Move her eyes, track my movements, express through that slight motion the absolute terror of her situation. She was watching me, feeling everything, unable to scream. I should have stopped. Should have administered something to truly render her unconscious, or to mercifully end her life quickly. But I did not, because she was dying anyway, because the examination was already underway, because the scientific knowledge I was gaining was too valuable to abandon, because I had already crossed a line, and turning back would not uncross it. I picked up my instruments and continued. I worked for 3 hours, documenting everything. The lungs, the heart, the diaphragm, the progression of disease through living tissue. Eleanor Marsh's eyes watched me the entire time, moving less and less as blood loss and shock began to overwhelm her system. Near midnight, her heart stopped. I recorded the time of death, 11:47 p.m., October 31st, 1864. Then I disposed of the body, told the boarding house where she had lived that she had died peacefully in the night, arranged for a quick burial in Potter's Field, signed the death certificate without hesitation. No one questioned me. I was a respected physician. My word was sufficient. And I had gained more understanding of pulmonary disease in those 3 hours than in 12 years of practice. I told myself I would never do it again. That Eleanor Marsh had been a unique circumstance, a terrible mistake that I would carry as shameful knowledge for the rest of my life. But the next October, I found myself thinking about it again, about the knowledge I had gained, about how much more I could learn if I had another subject, about how many dying patients passed through my care with no family, no one to miss them, nothing ahead but suffering. On Halloween night, 1865, I selected my second subject. 23 years, 23 Halloweens, 23 dying patients who became subjects for my research. I developed a pattern, a method, a ritual. I selected only patients who were genuinely dying, weeks or days from natural death. I selected only those who had no family, no close connections, no one who would investigate too thoroughly. I told myself this made it acceptable, that I was simply hastening the inevitable while contributing to medical knowledge. I refined my technique. I learned which organs to examine first, how to minimize blood loss to extend the examination time, how to document efficiently. I made sketches, took notes, built an extensive private archive of observations no other physician had ever made. And I told myself they were unconscious, that the laudanum rendered them insensible, that they felt nothing, knew nothing, experienced nothing. I told myself this despite the eyes, despite the way every single subject's eyes had opened at some point during the examination, despite the way those eyes tracked my movements, expressed consciousness, begged silently for mercy. I told myself the eye movements were reflexive, meaningless, That true consciousness required more than simple ocular response. I lied to myself for 23 years, because tonight, I understand the truth. His name is Marcus Whitley. He is 59 years old. He is dying of liver cancer, with perhaps 2 weeks remaining. He has no family. His wife died years ago. His children moved west and have not written in months. He has been my patient for 3 months. A kind man, educated, thoughtful. We have had many conversations during his treatment. He knows he is dying. He has accepted it with remarkable grace. This afternoon, he asked to speak with me privately. "Dr. Brennan," he said, "I want to thank you for your care these past months. You've made the dying easier, more bearable." "It's my profession," I said, "my calling. More than that, you treat me as a person, not just a dying body. You listen, you care." He paused. "I want to give you something in return, a gift." "That's not necessary." "I insist. You're a researcher, aren't you? I've seen the anatomical texts in your office, the specimens. You study disease, try to understand it." "Yes, then study mine. After I die, whenever that is, I want you to examine my body, learn from it. Maybe what you discover can help someone else." He smiled. "Give my death some purpose beyond just ending." The offer was extraordinary, exactly what I had been doing for 23 years, but this time with permission, consent, legal and moral authority. I should have been relieved, grateful. Here was a chance to continue my research without the guilt, without the deception. But instead, I felt something else. Disappointment. Because the examination would have to wait until after natural death. And bodies change rapidly after death. The tissues lose their living quality, the organs their function. The knowledge gained from a post-mortem examination, however immediate, is inferior to what can be learned from a living subject. "That's very generous," I said carefully. "Though I wonder, have you considered the timing?" "The timing? How quickly after death I should perform the examination? For maximum scientific value, you understand. The tissues begin to change immediately. Ideally, the examination would begin at the moment of death. Or even..." I let the implication hang. Marcus studied me with those intelligent eyes. "Or even slightly before. It would be more valuable, scientifically." "You're asking me to consent to vivisection." The word hung in the air between us. Vivisection, not dissection of the dead, but cutting into the living. "I'm asking you to consider it. You're dying regardless. The cancer will kill you within 2 weeks, probably painfully. I could make it painless. You would be unconscious, feeling nothing, and in the process contribute more to medical science than any textbook subject ever has. I would be alive when you cut me open. Technically, but unconscious. It would be no different from dying in your sleep, except that your death would serve a purpose." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then, "When?" "Halloween, tomorrow night. It's when I traditionally do my research. The night seems appropriate for exploring the mysteries of mortality." "Halloween," he smiled slightly. "All Hallows Eve, the night when the boundary between life and death grows thin. Yes, that seems fitting. So you consent. On one condition." "What condition?" "That you promise, swear to me, that I will be truly unconscious, that I will feel nothing, that whatever you do to my body, my mind will be elsewhere." Unaware, he leaned forward. "I'm not afraid of death, Dr. Brennan, but I am afraid of pain. Promise me, there will be no pain." I looked him in the eyes and said, "I promise. You will feel nothing. You will be completely unconscious." The same promise I had made to myself for 23 years. The same lie. He sits before me now in my surgery, in the chair where I asked him to wait while I prepared the examination table. I gave him the laudanum an hour ago, a massive dose, more than I've ever used before, enough to render an elephant unconscious. He is completely paralyzed. His breathing is shallow but steady. His eyes are closed, but he is not unconscious. I know this because I conducted a test. A simple test I should have conducted 23 years ago, but was too cowardly to attempt. I pricked his finger with a needle and asked, "Can you feel this? If you can, open your eyes." His eyes opened, wide, alert, aware. The laudanum paralyzes the body but does not stop consciousness, does not prevent sensation, does not stop pain. Every subject I have examined over 23 years, every dying patient I selected, every body I opened, every organ I studied, they were all awake, all aware, all feeling every cut, every probe, every moment of their vivisection. Eleanor Marsh, who watched me remove her diseased lungs while she was still breathing. Thomas Greenwood, who felt me cut away the tumor-ridden sections of his stomach. Catherine Price, whose heart I held in my hand while it still beat. 23 people who died in agony. Fully conscious, unable to scream, while I took notes on their suffering and called it science. Marcus Whitley stares at me now with those open eyes, pleading eyes. Eyes that remind me I promised him unconsciousness, promised him peace, promised him mercy. And I realize I have a choice. I can proceed as I always have. I can pretend he feels nothing, document his living anatomy, contribute to my private archive, and let him die in silent agony. Or I can finally, for the first time in 23 years, tell the truth. "You're awake," I say, "aren't you?" His eyes move, just slightly. Confirmation. "You can hear me. You can feel. The laudanum has paralyzed your body, but not your mind, just like all the others." I sit down across from him. I've been lying to myself for 23 years, telling myself my subjects were unconscious, that they felt nothing, but they did. You all did. His eyes don't leave my face. "I'm sorry," I say, and the words feel inadequate. "I'm sorry for what I've done, for what I was about to do to you. You trusted me. You consented to this believing you would be unconscious, and I knew, I've always known, that the laudanum doesn't work that way. I've been murdering conscious people and calling it research." I stand and move to the medicine cabinet. My hands are shaking as I select a bottle. "This is morphine, enough to render you truly unconscious, enough to stop the pain. I should have used this from the beginning, but I didn't because it would have affected the tissue quality, made the observations less accurate." I draw the morphine into a syringe. I chose scientific precision over mercy. I chose my research over their suffering. I return to Marcus and inject the morphine into his arm. "This will take a few minutes to work, but when it does, you'll feel nothing. You'll slip into unconsciousness and then death. Peaceful, painless, the way I promised you it would be." I sit back down and wait. His eyes begin to glaze. The morphine is taking effect, bringing true unconsciousness, true peace. And then his eyes focus on me one last time. Not with anger. I would have understood anger. Not with fear. I deserved fear. With pity. As though he understands something I don't. As though he sees something I've been blind to. His eyes close. His breathing slows. Slows further. Stops. Marcus Whitley dies peacefully at 10:47 p.m., October 31st, 1887. I do not perform the examination. There is no point now. The morphine has altered the tissue quality. Any observations would be compromised. But more than that, I no longer want to know. I no longer want to contribute to my private archive, to build my store of forbidden knowledge, to advance my research, because I understand now what Marcus saw, what he pitied me for. I have spent 23 years accumulating knowledge about the human body. I can describe in exquisite detail how organs function, how diseases progress, how death unfolds at the cellular level. But I learned nothing about being human. I learned nothing about mercy, compassion, the moral weight of consciousness and suffering. I became a physician to heal, and instead I became a monster who justified torture with scientific curiosity. I dispose of Marcus Whitley's body as I have disposed of 23 others before him. I sign the death certificate, liver cancer, natural causes. I arrange for burial in Potter's Field. No one questions me. I am a respected physician. But something has changed. As I clean my surgery, as I wash the instruments I did not use, I find myself thinking about the others. The 23 who came before. The 23 who died in agony while I took notes. Their eyes haunt me. All those eyes watching me work, begging silently for mercy that never came. I could continue. I could select another dying patient next Halloween. Tell myself that this time I'll use morphine. Give them the mercy I denied the others. But I know I won't. Because the truth is, I enjoyed it. Not the suffering. I'm not that far gone. But the knowledge, the power, the feeling of understanding something no other physician understood, of seeing what no one else had seen. I enjoyed being the only one who knew, the only one who had descended into this particular darkness and returned with secrets. And if I continue, if I allow myself one more subject, I will find reasons to justify it, ways to tell myself it's acceptable, methods to make the suffering seem less than it is. I cannot trust myself, so I must stop completely. But stopping does not erase what I've done, does not bring back the 23, does not undo their suffering. And I realize I need to confess, not to the authorities, that would be merely self-punishment, selfish catharsis. Not to colleagues, they would either disbelieve or be horrified in ways that help no one. I need to confess to someone who can still be harmed by what I've done, someone who has something to lose, someone who trusted me and whom I am about to betray. I need to confess to my apprentice. Dr. James Holloway is 26 years old, brilliant, dedicated, and eager to learn. He has been studying under me for 2 years, observing my practice, learning my techniques, preparing to take over when I retire. He arrived an hour ago for his scheduled evening rounds. He found me in my surgery, Marcus Whitley's body still on the table, my confession half written. "Dr. Brennan?" He stood in the doorway, confused. "What's happened? Who is that?" "Close the door, James. Sit down. I need to tell you something." He closed the door, did not sit, stood there watching me with growing concern. "I've been conducting unauthorized research," I said, "for 23 years. Every Halloween, I select a dying patient and perform vivisection while they're conscious, paralyzed but aware, feeling everything." Silence. Then, "You're joking. This is some kind of morbid Halloween jest." "I'm not joking. This man, Marcus Whitley, was supposed to be the 24th. He consented, but I lied to him about the unconsciousness. I've always lied. The laudanum paralyzes but doesn't prevent pain. I've been torturing dying people and calling it science." James stared at me, then at the body, then back at me. "Why are you telling me this?" Because you're going to inherit my practice. My reputation, my position in the medical community. You deserve to know what that reputation was built on. I paused. And because I need to be stopped. Stopped? I won't do it again. I've decided that. But I don't trust my decision. In a year, or 5, or 10, I'll rationalize my way back to it. I'll find reasons why it's acceptable. I'll select another subject. Unless you stop me. How? By reporting me. By telling the authorities what I've done. By destroying my reputation so thoroughly that I could never practice medicine again. I met his eyes. By doing what I'm too cowardly to do myself. James moved slowly into the room. He circled the examination table, studying Marcus Whitley's body, studying my instruments, studying the journals where I had documented 23 years of torture. These notes, he said quietly, touching one of the journals. The observations, the documentation. This is extraordinary work, things no one else has ever recorded. Knowledge that could advance medicine by decades. Knowledge gained through torture. Knowledge that could save lives. He looked up at me. If you're arrested, if this becomes public, all of this will be destroyed, burned, lost. The 23 people will have died for nothing. They died in agony. They died betrayed by someone they trusted. There is no "for" that makes that acceptable. But if their deaths led to breakthroughs, if their suffering contributed to knowledge that prevents suffering for thousands of others, doesn't that give it meaning? I stared at him, at this young man I had trained, who had learned my techniques, absorbed my methods, and was now suggesting exactly what I had told myself for 23 years. No, I said, it doesn't. Suffering is not redeemed by knowledge. Torture is not justified by results. I was wrong. I've always been wrong. James picked up one of the journals and flipped through it. His expression was intent, fascinated. But imagine what we could discover if we continued, if we refined the method, if we, selected subjects more carefully, documented more systematically, published the findings anonymously so the knowledge could. James, no. You're not listening. I'm confessing to murder. I'm asking you to stop me, to report me. He set down the journal and looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. I'm not going to report you, Dr. Brennan. Why not? Because you're right that this knowledge is valuable. You're right that it advances medicine. You're just wrong about whether that justifies continuing. He smiled, and it was not a smile I recognized. It does justify continuing, just not by you. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. What are you saying? I'm saying that you've spent 23 years building an extraordinary archive of knowledge, and you're going to give it to me, along with your methods, your contacts, your practice, and then you're going to retire quietly, and I'm going to continue the work. I won't let you. You don't have a choice. If you go to the authorities, I'll testify that you've gone mad, that you've developed delusions, that none of this is real. I'll destroy your credibility so thoroughly that no one will believe your confession, and then I'll continue the research anyway. Just more carefully. They'll find the bodies. They'll exhume. They'll find bodies of people who died of natural causes, signed off by a respected physician. No evidence of foul play. No proof of anything except an old man's guilty fantasies. He moved closer. You taught me well, Dr. Brennan. Better than you knew. I've been watching you for 2 years, wondering when you would invite me into the real work. When you would show me what you were doing on Halloween nights. I've been waiting. You're insane. I'm scientific. I'm rational. I'm exactly what you were before guilt made you weak. He picked up a scalpel from my instrument tray and tested its edge. You should have kept going, should have trusted your original instincts. The dying are going to die regardless. We might as well learn from them. I lunged for the door. James was faster. He moved between me and the exit, the scalpel still in his hand. "Don't make this difficult," he said. "I don't want to hurt you. You're my mentor. I respect you. But I will continue this work, with or without your cooperation." "Then without." "Fine," he shrugged. "But before you leave, let me show you something." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small brown bottle. "Laudanum," he said. "I brought it with me tonight. I've been carrying it for weeks, actually, waiting for the right moment." "What are you talking about?" "Dr. Brennan, you're 61 years old. You have a heart condition, mild but documented. You've mentioned chest pains, shortness of breath. It would not be at all unusual for you to have a cardiac episode." He uncorked the bottle. "Particularly after the stress of losing a patient on Halloween. Poor Mr. Whitley here, dying despite your best efforts. The grief, the exhaustion, the strain on your aging heart." Understanding crashed over me like cold water. "You're going to kill me." "I'm going to give you the same gift you've given 23 others. A purposeful death. A death that contributes to knowledge." His smile widened. "And unlike them, you'll be truly awake for it. No laudanum for you. I want you to experience what they experienced. I want you to understand, fully and completely, what you've been doing all these years." He moved toward me, the laudanum bottle in one hand, the scalpel in the other. "Think of it as justice," he said, "or education, or simply the continuation of the work through a new subject. Whatever helps you accept it." I backed away. My legs hit the examination table. Marcus Whitley's body lay there, peaceful in death, freed from suffering. I would not be so lucky. "Please," I whispered. "James, please. I'm sorry. I'll do anything. I'll help you. I'll teach you everything. Just don't..." "You already have taught me everything. That's the problem." He raised the bottle. "Open your mouth, Dr. Brennan, or I'll force it open. Either way, you're drinking this, and then we're going to begin your examination." I tried to run, tried to fight, but he was 26 and strong, and I was 61 and exhausted. He forced the laudanum down my throat, and now I sit here, writing these final words, as the paralysis begins to take hold. My fingers are already going numb. My legs won't move. Soon I won't be able to write at all. James is preparing his instruments, laying them out with the same care I taught him. He's reading through my journals, selecting which examination to replicate first. "I think we'll start with the thoracic cavity," he says, not looking up. "Your notes on Miss Marsh were particularly detailed. I'd like to see if I can reproduce your observations." My hand is shaking so badly I can barely hold the pen. But I have to finish this, have to write down what's happening, have to leave some record. If anyone finds this, if anyone reads it, please know, I'm Dr. Elias Brennan. I murdered 23 people over 23 years. I called it research. I called it science. I called it a gift. I was wrong. And now I am receiving the same gift I gave them. The gift of a conscious death. The gift of being cut open while awake. The gift of experiencing every moment of my own vivisection. James is approaching with the scalpel. He's smiling. He looks eager. He looks exactly like I must have looked for 23 years. "Ready, Dr. Brennan?" he asks. "Don't worry. I promise I'll be thorough. I promise I'll document everything. I promise your death will contribute to knowledge." The same promises I made, the same lies, He makes the first incision. I cannot scream. The laudanum has paralyzed my voice, but I can feel. God help me, I can feel everything. And I understand now, finally, completely. What I did to Eleanor Marsh, to all 23 of them, the pain is beyond description. James is taking notes, just as I did, observing, recording, advancing his knowledge, my knowledge, our knowledge, the knowledge that will continue long after I'm dead, that will pass from James to whoever he trains. That will build and compound and spread, because I started it, because I couldn't stop myself, because I valued knowledge over mercy. This is my legacy. This is my gift. This is my... Editor's note. This document was discovered November 1st, 1887, in the surgery of Dr. Elias Brennan, who was found dead at his examination table. Cause of death: cardiac failure during what appears to have been an attempt at self-examination. The handwriting deteriorates significantly in the final paragraphs, becoming nearly illegible. The last words trail off mid-sentence. Dr. James Halloway, Dr. Brennan's apprentice, reported finding his mentor's body and immediately notified authorities. He provided a statement describing Dr. Brennan's declining mental state in recent weeks, his obsession with medical research, his increasing paranoia and delusions. He had become convinced he was conducting unauthorized experiments, Dr. Halloway told investigators. He would write these elaborate confessions, these fantasies of vivisection and murder. I tried to get him to seek help, but he refused. I believe his guilt over being unable to save certain patients who died despite his best efforts, drove him to madness. Authorities investigated Dr. Brennan's patient records and found nothing irregular. All deaths were properly documented, all causes of death consistent with known illnesses. Several bodies were exhumed for examination. All showed evidence only of natural death and disease progression. The confession was deemed the product of a disturbed mind. Guilt-driven delusions, the psychological breakdown of an aging physician who had lost too many patients. Dr. James Halloway inherited Dr. Brennan's practice and continued serving the community with distinction. He developed a reputation as an exceptionally skilled surgeon with an unusually deep understanding of living anatomy. Every Halloween, Dr. Halloway would close his practice for the evening and conduct what he called private research. He never specified the nature of this research. He practiced medicine for 43 years. Upon his retirement in 1930, he passed his practice to his most promising student, along with an extensive archive of anatomical observations that he claimed would revolutionize surgical technique. The practice continues to this day, passed down through generations of surgeons, each trained in the same meticulous methods, each conducting the same private Halloween research. The archive grows larger every year, and every year, on November 1st, another unclaimed body is buried in Potter's Field. Another death certificate is signed. Another natural cause is recorded. No one questions it. The surgeons are too respected, too skilled, too trusted. After all, they're physicians, and physicians heal.